all for joining us for this discussion. Our speakers today are Stephen Knowles, CTO and co-founder of NG Data, and Dr. Michael Zeller, CEO of Zementis. They will be talking about how you can put your data to work to deliver more relevant customer experiences. We're looking forward to an interactive session and encourage you to submit your questions via the chat window at any time during the presentation. Stephen and Michael will answer your questions during the Q&A session at the end. We'll follow up via email on any questions that we were unable to respond to during today's session. The webcast is being recorded and will be available on both NG Data and Zementis websites shortly. You may also request a copy of the slides by sending a message via chat to the presenter. And now I'd like to turn the floor over to Stephen.
Thank you, Molly. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are, and thanks for being so plentiful attending this webinar. We're really excited about presenting our insights on how service companies, media companies, retail banks, and telcos are transitioning from traditional campaign-based marketing to a more interactive way of marketing, and we'd like to share you how we see that evolve now and how that will be evolving in the future. I think we're all aware with marketing and its classical, traditional way of how it works. At the beginning of the year, the marketing people are sitting around the table, they're drafting a calendar of the entire year, they're going to pick up some dates, when they're going to send out which email blast, what kind of campaign, what kind of offer to which customer, and that'll be it, and that's the plan, and that's going to be followed. Obviously, that bears with some problems. As you can imagine, first of all, a lot of traditional campaigning is not very precise in what kind of customers are going to be targeted. We talk with retail banks a lot, and you usually end up discussing 6 or 7 different types of customers, but they might have 10 million different customers, and they're reducing them to 6 or 7 types of customers. That's one issue. The other issue is if somebody actually receives an offer from a bank or a media company, it's not necessarily tied to what this customer is actually using or what this customer is actually doing in terms of his activities, of making use of the bank services, but because it's actually the calendar, the marketing calendar, which is driving the agenda and the campaign scheduling. So as you can imagine, interactive marketing is a very different type of thing. You will be, as a marketing person, trying to understand your customer to make sure that you're not only addressing groups of people, but you try to focus on addressing individual customers, making sure that you understand what is the best time, what is the best opportunity with which to engage with a customer is obviously way more interesting than just shooting in the dark with a very broad arrow and hope and being hopeful about actually hitting and engaging a customer. Now, we're talking about this usually in I would say benefits for us, but actually what is more important is that if you look at how customers are experiencing, not marketing, but in general communication and engagement from us service providers, it is really important that people are served much more related to their context. Context is obviously, it's a bit of a conceptual thing, but think about context as where somebody is at. It does make sense to provide somebody with, for instance, a reduction coupon to a certain product that you make him available, but it makes more sense to make that available to this person when he is in close distance, for instance, of actually the point where he can redeem that. We did a project at some point with a retail bank where they were providing coupons to their customers from their merchant partners, and we saw a huge lift when these coupons were provided within walking distance, actually when the person was shopping in the street and could simply walk into a shop and redeem that offer. So context is not just location, but it could also be the right timing and making sure ultimately that you align what you're doing with the customer, with his intents, with his preferences, and obviously also with his life events. If somebody has just bought a new car, he will be interested in an insurance for that car, of course. If somebody is consulting the sports section on your news website continuously, then he might be interested in a product offer around what kind of like sports news products that you have. So it's about offering tied to the customer's context and making sure that that offering goes far beyond the traditional segmentation-based approach of marketing. Now, in order to do that, what is really important, of course, is to make use of customer data. And I don't need to explain you that most service providers like banks and mediums and telcos, they have loads of customer data. They see how customers are using their services, how often they are visiting the website, what kind of products that they are subscribed to. So there's a lot of customer data. However, sometimes it can be quite challenging as the customer data is spread out across multiple different systems. It could be your website, the system which sits under your website. It could be your CRM system. And yeah, all these different systems might have little bits and pieces of data on about your customer and the customer's behavior and what he's actually up to. What is really important is to find that data and to organize that data so that it becomes available for your operational marketing organization or for your operational customer service organization. So we see with our customers who are becoming more successful in making use of customer data that they really made sure to put the customer up front and center in all services of their and all sorts of engagements from their organization. And that has actually a lot of benefits. One of the benefits is, and it's something that we've all encountered over the past, you have a multi-channel service provider in front of you as a consumer. So for instance, take the example of a bank. You will have a website, you will have a mobile application, you will have a call center that you can call into, and ultimately, if all else fails, you might even walk up to the branch. We all encountered these situations where we engage or act with our service provider, for instance, requesting a call for support or trying to start a certain contract online. And we're trying to do that via one channel, let's say the website, and then at some point we fail because of usability or lack of knowledge as a consumer, and then you say, okay, well, I might just hop on a phone call with the call center and see if they can help me. And then understanding of or experiencing as a customer that the bank really has seen all your steps through the website, for instance, and is able to pick up that conversation is obviously really important. Now, the challenge there is if all these data points about customers' behavior are spread out in the organization, it's actually kind of difficult to combine that into a holistic picture of the customer. Holistic in the sense that you understand your customer across all the different channels in the same way. If he files a complaint via the web, that your branch officer knows about it and accumulates that with the amount of complaints, for instance, that he has filing in real life with you. In order to do so, you really need to make sure that you have a system in place which is able to collect all that customer data and translate that in something which is actionable and which is central to all the customer engagement processes within your company. Now, we're not talking I think very advanced there. I think it's the basics that you as a customer-centric organization need to start working on. And actually, there's a threat coming there from the technology or internet companies, which have been doing that all along the way. We all know Google and Facebook and PayPal as great examples of, well, these customers who provide great service across their channels, obviously only limited to digital and mobile, but still, and make sure that through these channels they provide customers with a great experience which is consistent from mobile to digital, from mobile to web and vice versa. And what you also see is that customers are experiencing these services as fast and accurate and real-time. So as a bank, as a news publisher, as a telco, you need to make sure that you're fast and accurate as well across all your channels that you have. Because the nice thing is that you as a bank might have, and you will have, much more data about your customers than Google ever will have. You have access to these data points which nobody sees, like payment transactions or things about insurances and mortgages and all these kind of things. So on one hand, you have all the data at your availability. On the other hand, there might be an issue if you're not able to act on that data and that customer behavior in real time. Now, there's benefits in this for both the business people and the consumers. The consumers, they will get more value from the relationship they have with their bank and media and telco company. They'll be happy because they will feel appreciated by their service provider. Also, I think it's appreciation which comes with a better understanding, and that's actually what is really important. They feel understood across these different services that you're providing with them, and they will experience that they don't get marketing email blast campaigns on a monthly basis because that's what the marketing schedule says. They will be provided with offers, with content, with interesting service propositions which are really tied to their context and which are really much more relevant to them. On the banking or the service provider side, I think ultimately it's all about getting the right customers in and then making sure over the relationship that you're able to derive as much value from that relationship, and its mutual value, of course, as possible, and make sure that those highly valuable customers do not run away from you. Another benefit is that if you're really targeting your offers and what you provide to your customers in terms of service in a much more refined way and a much more accurate way, you will actually be, first of all, hopefully raising greater revenues, but even more important, being more efficient with your marketing budgets by making, you might end up doing more campaigns, but much more precise campaigns to smaller groups of people. So there's benefits in this for both sides of this, but how do we get started with that? I think this is a really important bit of how somebody starts working. If you're a service provider organization with loads of data about your customers, how do you get started with that in an efficient way? We, NG Data, we invented what we call the customer DNA, but I think the customer DNA at its essence is on a conceptual level, it's that tangible understanding of your customer, and not just facts about your customer, but also really understanding your customer's behavior. But if you look in practice, it's ultimately making sure that these data points that you have available already about your customer, that these become available for all the people that service and work with your customers across your entire organization. I think that's really important. You see that there's a lot of customer servicing people in your organization, be that marketers, be that people on the call centers, be that business people throughout the company, who, if they really want to understand the customer, the first thing that they need to do is to start working on collecting data about the customer. But if somebody else has already been collecting data about the customer, that's obviously a waste of energy. It only becomes efficient if you're able to access in your organization that central customer DNA, and it's only efficient from the customer's perspective if that DNA is organized at the individual customer level. So it's not just about having it centrally available, it is also making sure that you don't work with your customers in a segmentation-based approach, not trying to map all of your customers into 7 or 8 different types, but really carefully, individually profiling every individual customer from prospect stage to hopefully never churns away stage. So making sure that you have all these data points of your customers accessible and updated in real time. Because that's the point. It doesn't make sense to have that snapshot of your customer available only at reporting, when you're doing that monthly report for your boardroom or whatever, but making sure that you really update these individual customer profiles continuously in real time as they can be enriched due to all that customer data that you're collecting already. It's a really important thing about the customer DNA. If you look at how we see that, how it is organized, and it's actually leading up to where and how we started working with the company Zementis in making sure that our DNA gets even more richer and more interesting for marketing people. You'll find data points for your customer DNA in your data warehouses, in your CRM. We call that contributed information. Point is making that quantitatively available so that your marketing people don't have to go into your data warehouses, go into your IT organization, but can freely access that information from their own desktop or in an automated fashion from inside a marketing execution application. The other type of data that we have on customers that we map into that customer DNA is what we call observed data. And this is obviously huge. This is really important. This contains all your behavioral data points about your customer. It's about payment data, payment transactions. It's about the click streams, but not click streams in like large volumes of data. It is large volumes of data, but it's click stream organized at the per customer level, so that you really understand, hey, this customer is active on the website. Where is he coming from? And what has he been doing last month? And then hopefully also being able to translate that into a prediction of what is he going to do in the next couple of weeks or the time that follows. So behavioral data is also something that we are going to collect into our customer DNA as well. As every one of our customers is trying to differentiate themselves, obviously you're going to add some additional metrics. We call them metrics, these individual customer level data points. And then obviously a really important one is those data points where you're going to make predictions, metrics that you're going to make predictions at the individual customer level. The individual customer level, you're going to be able to score, for instance, the churn possibility that somebody is going to leave you as a customer, not analyzing what has happened in the past, but actually being able to predict what is the chance that he's going to leave you, so that as this score is continuously updated in real time, you will be able to act on any changes of that metric as soon as possible. Another one is obviously also about preferences of the customer. What is the affinity of a customer with certain lifestyle categories? All these kind of like more predictive scores are available as part of the DNA as well. So we have this huge list of customer level metrics which are continuously being updated, so that as you add additional data sources and your DNA is updated, and as customers are sharing data with you as part of the behavioral or contributed data, you will see that the DNA gets more precise, and you'll also see that the impact of behavioral metrics, like how active has somebody been using the digital channels, mobile or web, over the past week, over the past day, over the past hour maybe, that is actually becoming available and becoming useful to trigger actually when you are going to engage with that individual customer. It does not make sense anymore, I think, at this day and age, to spend a lot of time trying to select a carefully harvested list of customers and then firing off a huge campaign and then only find out that only 2 or 3% of your customers are reacting upon that. What is important is to make sure that for each individual customer level profile that you are nurturing, that you're including all possible atomic level behavioral informational data points and translate that into a metric which is available to your marketing people. And that actually leads me into how we started working with the company Zementis. So to make sure that as banks, for instance, which is a key part of our market, but media companies alike, they are using more and more of these predictive scoring models. I'm actually pretty happy about what they have been developing in this specific context in the past. So we had a need at some point to say, okay, how can we move that knowledge, which is now managed and nurtured by the data science people in those types of customers, how can we move that knowledge into our customer DNA as well? So we had a few requirements to make sure that we were able to update scores based on predictive models as fast as possible, and to make sure that we were able to support a broad set of workbenches that generate these models. And that's how we started working with Zementis. We're very happy to introduce you to Michael Zeller, CEO of Zementis, who will explain you what value these predictive models can contribute to have a more fruitful business conversation with your customer. Michael?
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for that kind introduction. And allow me to just introduce our vision and how it actually syncs very nicely with NG data. And what intrigued us was really that concept of modeling the DNA of the customer to predict their behavior. And at Zementis, we focus on the operational deployment of predictive analytics, which may seem kind of a mundane back-end task, but it's actually a very important key aspect that will allow you to more precisely model this kind of DNA of your customers, which then again is the key element to predict customer behavior more precisely, to really capture the right context and to really truly generate relevant insights. And in order to do that, your data science team needs to be able to really efficiently model customer behavior, so having access to the data that is relevant and timely, and then build those predictive models. And then those predictive models actually have to be able to move rapidly from the data science team, from the development, basically, into the deployment. The operational deployment is where you use them for scoring, for targeting. And this needs to become routine because it's such a key element in generating business value. It really needs to be a routine task that allows you to easily incorporate advanced predictive models, advanced data science into any operation that you run today. And that agile deployment will enable you to differentiate yourself, to be more targeted with your interaction with your customers, and ultimately generate a great customer experience on one hand and a great opportunity for you to generate more value for your business on the other hand. But let me actually step back just a little bit and make sure that we all use the same terms, because I often see analytics being kind of overused in many cases. And what we're not talking about today is that typical descriptive analytics that kind of answers what happened in the past, or what's my current status. It's that business intelligence approach that really is based on reports and dashboards and gives you kind of a status update of what has happened to your business in the past. But you really don't want to drive looking into your rearview mirror. What you want to do is you want to look forward. You want to look at what will happen next. How can I prevent this customer from churning? What would be the best next action for that particular customer? And that's really where predictive analytics comes into play, that truly generates value from your data. It's for your active, what I call decision support. It creates alerts, automated decisions, all these kind of micro decisions that you do in your business every day. That's really the key aspect to differentiate the customer experience. And that can be in batch processing, but ideally you will actually move that up into a real-time world. So remember, more data, the typical term of big data, really doesn't mean that you want more reports and more dashboard. What you want to get to is automated decisions. That's the key aspect. And in order to start the path to business value from data on the left-hand side here to the ultimate business value, generating better business insights, implementing automated action, predictive analytics is a key enabler. It is the way for you to build predictive models, to leverage machine learning or AI techniques your data mining and your data science teams, basically analyzing your data, all sorts of data, really across all your silos, and building predictive models that really deliver a more relevant, more accurate, a more comprehensive insight, and allow you to treat your customers in a more nuanced way, which leads to better decisions and ultimately really a greater business value. It's a competitive advantage, and if you look at the world today, machine learning is on everybody's mind, and it will be a key element for you to differentiate your business and to compete in the market that's to come. And you have the data to do that. So now, how do we get there? We need to be able to move from data to business value, from left to right here, as quickly as possible. That means we need to be able to develop and then deploy those predictive models as efficiently and as fast as possible. That's one of the key aspects. And that doesn't have to be extremely complicated, and it should never involve custom code. There's actually an open standard called PMML, the Predictive Model Markup Language, that allows you to establish a common process and a common standard to share those predictive models from your data science team into your operational environment here in Lilly. So it accelerates your deployment. You can really have an enterprise-grade execution platform in the back end. You don't deal with custom code, which ensures transparency among all the stakeholders. You can share models across different applications, different business divisions. You can even hire outside consultants to build models and just deliver them to you in an open standard in PMML format. And you can deploy those models and run them in real time almost instantaneously. So really what you need to do with an open standard like PMML, you need to transform your predictive models into dynamic assets. Don't think about the underlying infrastructure, but think about your data and your models as the business asset here. And that's really what, again, will set your decisions apart. Now, we can deploy those models faster. That's one element. So your data science team building models, deploying them in a couple of hours rather than 6 or 9 or 12 months is one great impact. But yet again, I think the next level of competitiveness is if you can actually act in real time or as close to real time as possible. Because believe it or not, your data is a very perishable asset. So the longer you wait to respond to a certain business event, the lower the value will be. And that value declines very rapidly. So fast action and being able to recommend a new product almost in real time and in the most relevant context is very, very critical. Otherwise, if your customer is churned, giving them an offer not to go churn is a little late. So you missed the opportunity. It's actually very damaging to your business if you let the customer go first. So real-time interaction is very, very crucial. Now, we've been talking about using more data, social media data, all the silos that you have across your enterprise. So more data is better. It's really important to be able to leverage all of that, but it still is perishable. So, again, the same concept applies. You have to be able to act, as close to real time as possible to have maximum impact. The highest value will be created if you respond to a certain event, to a certain customer, as close to that event as possible. Now, with more data, that becomes a little bit more difficult. So, key aspect here, and it's what attracted us to partnering with NG Data and Lilly, is that you can actually run this in real time. That you bring together the data source, and you can actually apply those predictive models in real time in an enterprise-grade framework. So that means you can be more precise, more nuanced, and you can implement that true micro-targeting. You can treat each customer, as an individual, not as one large bucket, which is typically the case, and that will really differentiate it. So much for the theory of why you should be able to leverage an open standard and deploy models fast, and then apply those models in real time. Now, how does that actually look in practice in Lilly? Stephen will explain that to you. So back to you, Stephen.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Michael. And yeah, I think we all seen this. There's a few things really important that we learned here. It is being able to tie real-time data processing and real-time scoring of customers, make sure that you can be much more relevant and much more tied to the context of the customer, so your message will be better received. Big data is important, but data is perishable. So again, scoring on all data is kind of like a wasted effort. Now, there is obviously the practice, as Michael was saying, that you need to build these models. And then you need to score your customers against these models. How does this work? Well, actually, it starts with building a great data set about your customers. A great data set means that we will start building that customer DNA, or actually you will be doing it using our Lily Enterprise product, by connecting all your data sources into Lily and have that DNA being built. Now, your DNA is something which lives and breathes and is updated continuously, but obviously you can export that DNA in a format that we call a Lily data frame. And it contains information both from your back office systems, but also the behavioral data points, and maybe even additional scores that you've already put, in your system before. So the data scientist had access to an export format of data points about a selection of customers, a training data set, as you will know if you have some data science background, and he will use his familiar analytical workbench, be that R or SPSS, K9 or maybe SAS, and he will be training his model, combining knowledge about how to use these tools and obviously also business knowledge about what are the most interesting data points to focus on. Out of this comes a predictive model, which is formatted using that predictive modeling markup language, or the PMML. So the nice thing here, it's a standard format. So all of your tools can generate this format. What we have then is a close integration between Zementis, the PMML scoring engine, and Lily, so that as new data points about the customers arrive, the scores will be continuously updated at the individual level. So it's not going to be like with many traditional systems that every month you're going to score all of your customers. No, it's every customer is going to be rescored individually when the system sees and detects a new data point about an individual customer. And also, scores are regularly updated when time passes. Another important thing is that scores are updated also when the customer is not active. There's a lot of personalization engines out there who only can do something when the customer is present on the website or on the digital platform, while as with Lily, you will see, for instance, if activity, like the number of clicks somebody is making on a daily basis, if that's an input parameter to a churn model, and it actually could be an input parameter to a churn model, that churn score is going to be daily updated, and it's going to be increased if the person is not visiting your website anymore when he is not active anymore. So you have the real-time scores coming out of Lily, and then obviously it comes into how you're going to integrate that into your marketing execution framework. Lily, our product which generates the customer DNA, has a complete offering about how to integrate this. First of all, to make decisions on what is the next best action for engaging with a customer, both in a reactive way or in a proactive way. And able to connect these actions then in your marketing execution applications, your email system, your web personalization engine, and so on and so forth. But for this webinar, we focused on how you get these scores by using data which is much more structured, by using your familiar workbenches, and by relying on a trusted and standardized way of exchanging your models into Lily with the Zementis integration. Given that, you're going to reduce, or actually you're going to increase the efficiency of your data science team dramatically, because we found out with our own data scientists, but also with data science teams, with our customers, that oftentimes they spend more than 70% of their time not training models and understanding data, but just preparing data so that it can be processed by the analytical workbench. And this whole effort actually drops away. And as Michael already stated, automating this data science model training pipeline as much as possible is actually what you're going to benefit from. You'll get continuously updated scores, and you will be able to retrain your models with the changing reality much more rapidly so that the scores actually stay relevant over time. Now, the next bit is obviously looking at how we're going to use these scores. As I said already, it's food for another webinar, and we'll be happy to schedule that one shortly. The point is, how are you going to apply these insights into action? Applying insights is not just about building a nice data visualization or a nice graph on, okay, this is why customers have left us and we really understand it. It is really proactively engaging with the customer when some score opens up an opportunity or a threat to the relationship. For that, it is important that these scores are continuously updated, as we mentioned already, taking into account the real-time scores. And also, it actually might be interesting if you look at these predictive scores, that you're not just looking at the value of them, but also at how fast they are changing. As you can imagine, somebody who has a continuously like slightly higher propensity for a product, like 45%, is 45% more likely than its counterparts to buy this product. Well, that might be not something very relevant. Somebody has a quite low propensity for buying a product, like 25%, and in a week's time it suddenly jumps up to 45%. That has actually more value. And it's more interesting to make use as a data point to perhaps send that second person an offer about the product, because suddenly his propensity score for that product has dramatically increased. So looking at trends is probably more important than value. What we try to achieve and what we try to support our customers with using our technology is that they move away from insights and campaign-based marketing to a more interactive and impactful way of marketing. So where your traditional system is going to provide you with loads of potential leads and a very low redemption rate when you're sending out an email or addressing them in some mass-based campaign methods, Lydia is going to select much smaller groups or cohorts of people because you basically be able to ask questions like, okay, give me the top 100 or top 5 people who are interested in buying this product now so that I can market specifically to these individual customers. And as these customer profiles are continuously being updated, it's actually the customer who is going to take implicitly the initiative for being reachable, addressable for a certain offer. So moving from insight-based, campaign-based analytics and marketing towards that interactive, more conversational style of marketing is going to be generating some real impact on your side as well. And we've seen cases where that impact was actually dramatically higher. Another thing is, as this DNA is centrally available and managed in our product, it becomes available for a multitude of use cases. So it's not the case that 3 different departments in your organization need to build up their own scores for loyalty or customer value. It becomes something that you can share across multiple parts of your organization. And you will be able, as your use of that customer DNA is growing and increasing, and as you're connecting additional data sources to make your DNA smarter, the DNA smartness will become available for multiple use cases, from acquiring the right customer to serving the customer better throughout the lifetime, and obviously also making sure preventing the high-value customers to run away from you, but at the same time also make sure that you prevent you from spending and wasting money on customers who are going to leave you anyway and which might not produce much value in the relationship that you have with them. So having that DNA centrally available as a software application running inside your organization is critical. Having these scores continuously updated in a standard-based fashion is what we made possible with our integration with Zementis. What there important is that we are supporting both the traditional outbound style of marketing with more refined, more precise target lists, so that you can be trustful that you're going to be sending out less emails, but more frequent emails to smaller groups of people and still see a higher result. Also supporting the inbound use case when the customer chooses to engage with you rather than the other way around, that all of the data points, not just about his behavior and the things that you know on a factual way, but also the likeliness of what this person might be interested in, certain propensity scores, and obviously also the eligibility for certain types of offers of that customer. All of that information is available for your call center collaborator in a real-time fashion as well. So you will be able to provide much more insightful and, as I mentioned already in the beginning, if you look across the different channels, a more holistic style of conversation with the customer, so that he really feels that you have this individual one-on-one relationship with him. We wanted to finish off with a concrete use case. This is a really large, part of a really large telco group, Liberty Global, not just telco, but media and telco in general, Telenet, which is a customer of ours. As many of these telcos, there's just a few contenders there in the market. And so you have already a lot of consolidation in the market, which means you have a few groups of quite large quite large service providers who are going after the same customers. And the customers are aware of that. There's nothing which is easier for a customer than to change telco service provider, to change his mobile phone provider, or some bundled offers. It's just a matter of comparing price points and seeing where you can get the best deal. So for a telco, it is really important to make sure that if they're selling to the right customer, and if they're trying to increase loyalty, that they're trying to increase loyalty with the high-value customers. What we saw there is that they moved from a traditional, more campaign-based way of working. So they scheduled 100 campaigns per year, which is pretty impressive. They now increased the campaigning due to all the automation that we have in our product, and also with the automated scoring of Zementis. They increased the campaign intensity to 750 per year. So multiple campaigns per day, but very small ones, just addressing a small percentage of the customers. But what they see is, because of the fact that as the profiles are continuously rescored at the individual level, the people who will be part of a campaign target list, they will be much more relevant for one particular campaign, for that smaller campaign set. So the likeliness that you're offering them something which is actually relevant to the individual customer is much more higher. And as you can see, that resulted in a dramatic increase on their sales campaign. And when they started off their new mobile activity some time ago, they were really the contender and trying to go after the incumbent players, using this more sophisticated, more targeted way of running these campaigns for smaller groups. They were able to really grow that mobile customer base just over the course of the course of 4 to 6 months in a really impressive way. Now, summarizing, I think when we transition from campaign-based approaches to that more conversational, interactive style of marketing, by operationalizing analytics and effectively bridging that gap between analytics and execution, there's a lot of disadvantages that we will get. We will not go work from a scheduled based focus anymore, but we will continuously send out offers and propose offers as the customer's behavior is being processed. We will be really contextual in how we work with the customer, and he will feel understood much more better. And we will be able to completely automate that process to the aspect that we're able to predict churn and act on the earliest signs of warning for churn, rather than being great at analyzing why somebody has left you. Ultimately, what this system allows you with is to reduce costs by being more efficient with your marketing budget in general. With that, I'd like to conclude the content side of this webinar. Hopefully it was interesting, and please don't hesitate to come back to us. And I see there were a few questions. So Molly, why don't you lead us through the questions?
Sure. Thank you very much, Stephen. And just to remind everyone, if you want to put your questions into the question or chat area, then we'll be sure to get to them. There's a couple here that we'd like to do. Stephen, this is one for you. It says, we have trouble connecting all of our data sources. What types of data have you found to be most useful in building out this customer DNA?
Well, thanks, Molly. That's actually a pretty neat question. I think this, when people are looking into a more analytical way of marketing, really, or as Mike was saying, like a predictive way of marketing, they often think that they need to collect all sorts of new data. Actually, I think with predictive modeling, it often turns out that just making sure of the available data sources, but in a more automated way, is actually also already capable of yielding great results. The one thing which is really important there is that a lot of the predictive scoring efforts that we've seen, for instance, at banks, are oftentimes revolving around the traditional social demographic data points, which everybody has, but it's difficult to make a to differentiate yourself with. But add on to that all the behavioral information, payment transaction data, digital behavior like web and mobile. These two alone combined, they will dramatically increase the efficiency of your operation if you're able to add those to your predictive scores that you have, the models that you have trained about your customers already.
Great. And then, Michael, here's one I think that's good for you here. We have some models already developed in R. How exactly can we get those from R into Lily?
Good question. Thanks. Yeah, this is really hands-on, right? So you've built models in R, which is one of the most popular open source data mining platforms out there. And then there's actually a number of packages that you can find in the CRAN archives. So if you're familiar with R, you know what I mean. It's basically an open archive where you can download packages, and there's two. One for PMML models, and then one for PMML transformations, so you can capture all your pre- and post-processing transformations in addition to models. It already covers quite a lot of different packages, you know, from simple regression to the most complex ensemble models like random forests or boosted trees. So, great question. Yeah, it's very simple. You know, basically, yeah, at the end of the day, it would be save as, right? So you build your model, and then you basically save it as PMML using one of those packages.
Great. Okay, and then there's another one here for Stephen. I think you could do this one. What are the added benefits when modeling behavioral data toward knowing customers better?
Well, I think we mentioned a few times media companies, but specifically telco and banks, they have already created great predictive models in the past. And the problem is operating on them. So really making that pipeline of retraining models and creating new models, making that more efficient. The other thing is that oftentimes they use it only to understand why something has happened in the past. By adding behavioral metrics, so information about the customer behavior, into the model as input parameters, what you're ultimately doing at that point is to adding the when and the how to it. The when is, when are you going to propose something to a customer? Not when the marketing person decides, okay, it's that day of the calendar of the year and we were supposed to run this campaign today. No, it's going to be based and influenced. That score will be higher on those people who, for instance, were more active on a certain product related to that offer. So you'll be aligning when you're going to propose something to really the behavior of the customer if you include those behavioral metrics into the training data set of your model. The other thing is that you're also going to optimize how you're going to engage with the customer. How in the sense like what channel does he prefer most? the easiest way to understand what channel he prefers most is by measuring it and by making that available to your data science team as a quantitative metric, so that they again can include that into the model building exercise as well. So this is all going to be about optimizing when and how to engage with the customer. But I think these are the when and the how, as simple as these words sound, or the really basic essence of being contextually more relevant to the customer, because the customer is who he is and you understand who he is, but what you failed to understand in the past is really when and how to engage with the customer in the most efficient way, both for you, but most especially most relevant for the customer. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Stephen. And I think that we'll take this one last question. It says, it's from Michael. What types of models do you see being used to predict product propensities?
Oh, yeah. What we that's actually a very interesting question to look at, because today we predominantly still see kind of logistic regression models and decision trees. I would almost say like kind of the simpler type of models, but think of it as, you know, turbocharging them here in Lily, where you have more data available and you can run them closer to real time than ever before. So even with your, you know, simplistic models today, you can have a much better impact, a much more relevant impact. Now, what we see clients transitioning to is more complex models out of the realm of ensembles. Random forest models are very, very popular. And then I see people experimenting more and more with machine learning models like neural networks, even going to deep learning models. And again, with more data and still the ability to import complex models without custom code and running them in real time, that's the main differentiator here, that you'll still be able to apply those. There's no fundamental change in your infrastructure if you go from simple to complex models, from using less data to more data, from using it in batch mode to real time. All of those elements are there. You can take it step by step and experiment very, very quickly. And that's, I think, the main option here, that your data scientists can actually experiment with different model types and deploy them to the operational infrastructure very, very effectively.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much, Michael. Well, that concludes today's presentation. I want to thank Stephen Knowles from NG Data and Dr. Michael Zeller from Zementis. And I want to thank all of you for attending. We'll follow up with those questions we weren't able to get to via email. To view NG Data's upcoming events, press, or to learn more about our customer experience management solution in Lily Enterprise, including a personalized demo or our thought leadership pieces, please visit ngdata.com. And if you are interested in learning more about the Zementis predictive analytics platform, please visit zementis.com. They especially invite you to download their white paper covering the PML industry standard and how it can help you accelerate operational development of predictive models, no matter if for real or batch processing on mainframe, Hadoop, cloud, or in database. Thank you again for attending, and we'll be in touch with you with the recording information. Thank you and have a great day.